thinking about freelance, this is how you graduate to being a freelance, because most people just start freelance because they think it's going to make them free from the burdens that they have in corporate, which I don't think is true.
Leave a job just to go and be a freelancer in a company where you're working for them 80% of the time. And so you actually are a permanent employee. You now just don't have the safety of being a permanent employee. So you really got to weigh it up and do it right.
Because a consultant, I would say the contract's pretty much the same as a freelancer. There's a problem.
Yeah,
I know that you're the best at it. Come and do it. But you wouldn't say the same words. Let's get a consultant. It's going to be more affordable.
I disagree with you a little bit. I think that
Greetings, Chantelle, CCB, apparently, AKA. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, Jay. Yourself, Jay. I think we could jump on my bandwagon.
Yes, yeah. I was listening. Richard, you know Richard Mulholland, right?
Yeah, I do know him.
I had a chat with him last week.
And I'll bring the talk.
Were you? Do you remember when he said, the moment you mention someone's nickname, it almost brings you, you move into a different sphere of relationship. So do you see what I did there? I was like, there's Chantelle Bowyer and then there's CCB, right? So you know where I'm trying to go with this. I'm trying to be like, let's chill. Let's post up, maybe even have a gin and tonic in hand. You know, I want to speak to Chantelle, not CEO Chantelle. Is that okay?
Yeah, well, you get Chantelle, so you get CCB all the way.
Okay. Chantelle, thank you so much for joining me on. This is going to be, I think I've just gone over 10 episodes of Professional Pillar Talk. So, you know, I think I've flexed my muscle. Yes, I'm getting a little bit better at this. We've had multiple conversations, probably a lot of podcast sessions. And today's going to be super, super, super cool. And I'm going to say again, thank you so much for showing up for me and for the audience. But before we dive into our topic, right, and which is going to be speaking around gig economy, freelancers, you know, you've done a really beautiful pivot of your business. I want to relearn about you.
Right? Cool. Let's do it.
And I've done a lot of digging. So I did a little bit of digging on the internet. And I'm not gonna go too far. I'm not gonna like pull back too much clothes here and get too far naked. But do you remember, would you be able to know what your first LinkedIn post was? It was 10 years ago.
Wow.
Do you know what you might have written?
So I was in double digits. It was probably something super lame. So 10 years ago, I was probably speaking about Google Ads, or maybe something to do with Google Ads training, potentially.
Oh, what? Wow. Oh, my word. So that is so good. Yes. So 10 years ago, you wrote 89% for my Google Analytics test. Next up, question mark.
I think I was Google back then, and on my quest to become the trainer for Google. So it was my claim to fame back in those days.
Yes, and you definitely, you were number one Google trainer, South Africa, SADC. What was that? What was that about?
Yeah, no. So Google had quite an interesting concept back in the day, where they basically took an idea of agencies training agencies as opposed to agencies being trained by Google. And I was just really lucky enough to be one of the trainers. I think everything sort of came to a standstill in 2020 and it moved online. But at that time, we still had the good old in-person training sessions. No, it definitely was not the first, but I think it was the third, potentially, somewhere around there.
Okay. Nice. And which was so interesting, also talking still about your first post, which it correlates to where you are today in business, where you're working with a lot of freelancers, contractors, the gig economy world. One of your posts 10 years ago was, I also completed remote over the holidays. I felt totally inspired. And then you have a link where it says working with people in other locations. So 10 years ago, you were already talking about remote work. Wild.
Oh, that's crazy. I actually think it's one of the first sort of business books that really landed for me. I definitely come from a more traditional way of working, my job before this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of something just never quite sat right. And so you speak of the pivot that happened, and that happened for us actually in 2020 when we changed our business model. But the one thing that was very easy for us to do was pivot from a business that um, had an office and everybody came to office and, well, didn't always come to office, but we were always built as a remote company. So we always set up for it. So the day the president had his say, it was a very, very quick transition. Everything sort of carried on as usual, as best as it could, at least from a internal running of the company perspective. So yeah, and I was definitely inspired by that book because I saw the guys from Basecamp that wrote it, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's still a great book, by the way. 10 years old, but
Sure.
still a goodie.
So you were on it. Do you have a vision then? Like if 10 years ago you were thinking about remote, building a business that has the infrastructure for remote. So, COVID happened. It's not saying that you predicted it and you were like happy about it, but you were already
Definitely
you were already
not.
thinking in
They
that
start
way.
throwing things. Yeah.
Yes. You were already thinking in that way. If we have to think about, what have you always been thinking about? Because you've been in business for about 15 to 20 years, right? Like what's the vision?
So the vision is actually very much around the business model. So a lot of people think that the business I'm in is in performance marketing, and it definitely looks that way. Metis is a performance marketing company. However, Metis performance marketing is just a prototype for a business model that I want to be able to duplicate over and over and over. And all of the businesses, the one thing they have in common is that it is set up for the gig economy. And so whether I'm really looking at types of work which are generally delivered by freelancers. I personally, by the way, hate the name freelancer. I hate the fact that there's a name free in there. And so, yeah, so we call them unicorns, otherwise solopreneurs. And so we really look at that and going, what other types of jobs out there or gigs out there essentially work really well in this sort of economy, and therefore how can we sort of replicate businesses, this particular prototype, into other markets. So that is the long-term vision, and just to do it differently where it's still a people first business. I personally feel that a lot of times freelancers, and I use that word now because they are taken advantage of, and they do a lot of
Yeah.
work for free. And so we just don't believe in that. And it's just about how do we still make it about the person. And that's what I feel we've done really well.
Okay, nice. And shifting from, of course, the vision being, I think it's a beautiful business model, right? I'm very much for the project, if you call it project-based gig economy, allowing specialized individuals to be part of a larger value chain. Because like you're a designer, you're a copywriter, you're not necessarily, it's hard to place yourself part of an initial project if there isn't maybe a salesperson, if there isn't a techie. So platforms like yours, brands like Metis, who can speak to the likes of corporates like a Take a Lot, to larger organizations, take these, if you want to call them Avengers with specific skills, or you call them unicorns, and bring them together, right? Beautiful, beautiful model. But like, what do you do, like as a company? Like, who are you serving, and why? Or why are you serving them?
So yeah, Metis Performance Marketing, and we call ourselves the nerds of marketing. So we don't do like the cool, sexy stuff. We do the Excel sheets and analyzing the data. And really, the bottom line is people come to us because they want more sales. That's really it. And it's our job to sort of build these data-centric marketing ecosystems and really allow the data to do the work for the client. We find the richer the data is, the better the targeting and the marketing campaigns go, and with that, the better the results for our clients. So that's very much what Metis Performance Marketing does. Where the unicorns come into play is just ensuring that we have like we're really into the specialist thing. So whether it's the type of campaign that needs to be run, or the type of platform that needs to be run on, or the type of channel that we are working with, we really want to ensure that it is a specialist that does that particular thing. So we very much run people working in these sweet spots. It's like the place where they add the biggest value and get the most energy. So if we get that right, we find the client reaps a really good reward from it, because you first have a happy unicorn, as well as somebody who's just highly, highly skilled at what they do. And yeah, that's the idea around that.
And so post-COVID, you already set up as an agency with infrastructure to be remote. Pre-COVID, yeah. Pre-COVID. What were you doing before that in terms of executing work? Like, did you hire people? And then take us through that transition or what that looked like.
Yeah. So we did hire people. We were a traditional marketing or digital marketing agency. So what I mean by that is we thought that foosball tables is what motivates people. And I think we learned a lot during that sort of transition. And I think as well, one of the biggest challenges we had as a digital marketing agency is the fact that there's a lot of employee churn. So even happy employees still churn because there's always a bigger deal on the table, really. Especially, I found sometimes, and it might sound a little bit arrogant, but being the trainer for Google means that the employees of the business were hunted down a lot as well by other competitors. So we did have that which we had to deal with. And so what I found was we were like consistently having to upskill people that were more junior, and the platforms themselves have got really complex. And so I really wanted to work with senior people. I want them to show me stuff I've never seen before and blow my mind. And that's what we get to do now. As well as I just think it's fun when other people almost like have like that extra accountability and ownership, right? We actually do a revenue share with our unicorns. So they earn essentially what the client is paying. And with that, I think it adds that element of accountability and ownership of this is the client. This is not Metis' client, this is my client. And so that's also worked really, really well for us. So yeah, we definitely changed a lot of things and realized that people are actually motivated by work they love to do, not foosball tables. So, and I think that has very much allowed us to give that back to people as well and really look at what makes them happy. So we speak about freedom. So when I say freedom, it's the financial freedom. There's also the freedom to work on projects they want to work on and do the type of work they want to do. So I think a lot of times freelancers take on work because they need the money, or they don't know how to price, or whatever the case is, and they might be desperate and maybe even take on clients that aren't a good fit for them, or even the type of work is not a good fit for them. So you get a lot of like sort of generalists. But there's always, even when I sometimes speak to someone who considers themselves a generalist and really dig deeper, it is the one part that they love. So I'm like, well, why aren't you just doing that? Like, just get paid well for that. And so how to sort of get that going. So yeah, I think that was the biggest change for us.
Sure. It's beautiful to hear how you're really focused on two markets. Of course, you want to work with really good clients and produce really good work, right? but you can only produce, especially as a founder yourself, you're only as good as your output, and your output's
Mm.
key input is people, right?
Yes.
Like the key input for you to be successful is not knowing a lot. Like you said, you want to be taught
Yes.
by the specialist. Very well put. Like, and normally you start businesses with a very unique skill. Probably you saw a gap in the market that you could provide. What was
Mm.
that skill at the beginning? Like, where did you see, okay, the problem I can solve for a bunch of clients was this? Like, what is your background? Are you a marketeer? I mean, just want to get a bit of
No, I
background
come
on that.
from I come from an engineering background,
Oh, I
and
thought
when
you
I
were an
say I'm not an
accountant.
engineer, I studied accounting as well. But
Oh,
my
wow.
sort of background, I worked for an engineering company. I was very lucky to be made a partner at a very young age, so I got to learn how
Brilliant.
to run a business. So my background is more around running a business. However, when I made the change from that to Metis, I kind of, if I think about it, I may have set myself up to be a company, but I was a freelancer really, or a solopreneur, because I was
Mm,
sort of that person also trying to do it all, not niching my skills. And I think the big change came when um, I decided to become Google Ads certified and then really hone in on that as a specialist skill set. And with that, having that focus allowed us to, it went from doing the exam and getting the 89%, but then being one of the first Google partners in South Africa. And then from then deeper on the Google Ads coaching program, then the Google trainer. So it was like very much then like had a North Star, I guess, and I knew
mm,
where we played well. Um, since then, it has, now we've expanded outside of that because I think maybe 10 years ago, you could rely on just putting on a Google Ads campaign and doing well, where now we realize it's a lot
mm.
more holistic approach that's needed. And so we've added other channels. And yeah, I call us data analysts first. It just so happens that Google Ads is a channel we use, but it really comes down to analyzing data.
Sure. Actually, didn't. Yeah, it's funny. I thought you were an accountant, but yeah, that makes sense now because you do wonders. When I first met you on Excel sheets, it used to be like your thing. We're like, yo, Excel sheets.
I
Okay,
still
so
do wonders on
pivoting
Excel.
from that's still your superpower. the so it's pivoting to the gig economy. So it's beautiful that you already considered yourself, or maybe just the terminology of freelancer when you started a business. Do you think the term gig economy is just being coined gig economy now because it's easier to do contract work, or is it an evolving economy? So what I'm asking is, before the word gig economy, weren't people doing like freelance work, right? And then like, why has it become so like prominent? What has that shift been? It seems like and I'm asking that because it seems, as a business owner, specialist in like building businesses, did you pick up on that, like that trend?
I do think that there's always been an element of it, right? Like maybe a teacher who called contract work before or project work before or whatever the case is. I think there's always been those names or consultant work, like where you'd maybe bring in a specialist for a short time, a short span of time. I think for me, what I've seen grown is the type of work that is essentially provided by solopreneurs now. Um, where before it might have been, as I said, like a consultant would come in, I don't know, strategy consultant would come into your business and whatever the case is now, or it was a graphic designer and needs some graphics done. But I think it has grown a lot since then. So it's yeah, I don't know where even the limit lies, to be quite honest with you. I think there's certain industries where it's just a lot bigger. But I mean, we go back a long time and outsource CFO being essentially a CFO coming into business. No one thought of that would ever be a thing. Like, how can a small business have a CFO? And now we have outsourced CMOs and outsourced CTOs. And so the fractionals are everywhere. So yeah, I think that it's just really expanded out. Why? When we speak to our unicorns and ask them why they went this route, a lot of it was just having that additional freedom. Sometimes it was just they worked in businesses where you really had to clock in and clock out and potentially work on projects that just you didn't enjoy. And they just wanted to have a bit more control over, I guess, their destiny in a way and just what their day looks like and didn't want their calendar run by someone else. So I think it was very much that was the allure. I think COVID accelerated a lot of things in our life. I think one of the things was that people lost their jobs. And so they needed to hustle and make cash. And so I think maybe a lot of people had side hustles before that then became full-time things.
Yes.
So we might talk about it more now, but it's always been there. It just had different names: side hustle, consult work, or whatever the case is. I think that businesses have accelerated it a bit as well, but not necessarily in the positive light. I think that companies out there are almost not wanting to commit to hiring somebody and paying them a salary and the leave days and the sick days and everything that comes with it. So they sometimes go the freelancer route, where it just means that they can get the most for their buck. And I'm so against that. Like it really grates me hard. So I do think that has almost accelerated it, but in the negative lights. And one of the things that we try to do with our freelancers is coach them against that. Like, don't leave a job just to go and be a freelancer in a company where you're working for them 80% of the time. And so you actually are a permanent employee. You now just don't have the safety of being a permanent employee. So you really got to weigh it up and do it right. So we do try coach around that. And even our own freelancers, while we would love for them to do more and more work for us because they're so good, and it's a lot of vetting that gets good people in here. We don't want to be a certain percentage of the income because we advise them actually against it. Like, no, you actually need other clients. It's important for you to have other clients. So yeah, it's that sort of balance. But just sorry, going back to what you said. Yeah, and I think that COVID just also opened people's eyes into I can work remotely. I don't have to work for a company that's in a 10-kilometer radius. I can now actually have my skills. I can go anywhere in the country or even overseas. So that opened a lot of doors. Yeah, so I think there's a few things at play.
It's interesting. I probably thought about it before. It's true, where like freelancers, I've done like some freelance work or consulting work where you feel like you're underpaid. But from a business side, it's true. Like we've been in those rooms. It's like, oh yeah, like, let's just get a freelancer. It'll be more affordable, right? But I've never heard, because freelancers, consulting, contract work, they're in the same bracket, right? Because a consultant, I would say the contract's pretty much the same as a freelancer. There's a problem. I know that you're the best at it. Come and do it. But you wouldn't say the same words. Let's get a consultant. It's going to be more affordable. You would actually say, we need a consultant. They will be able to bring in the specialized skill that we need, right? Like, it's going to cost us a pretty penny, but we want Chantelle because we know that predominantly consultants come and really do the thing. Like, of course there's death by PowerPoint and like whole, consultants just being glorified strategists. But like you raised the interesting point there, because freelancers shouldn't take on that word, I'm a freelancer, but you do want to make yourself feel more accessible than a contractor and a consultant. So this gig economy world, I think it's an interesting one that we've designed. And that's why I asked the question, because I'm like, hasn't it been around the whole time?
I disagree with you a little bit. I think that people want to make themselves accessible because they think there's not enough work out there. And the bottom line is that there is enough work out there, but we don't spend a lot of time in going to find that work. And I think if you position yourself in the right way, in this particular case, using the word consultant as opposed to the word freelancer, a consultant is immediately seen as a specialist with expertise that could come and solve my problem. A consultant is my wise counsel, but that's what you should be in whatever service that you offer. So in this particular case, we use paid media specialists. By the way, we use the word specialist when speaking about them because that's what they are. They're experts in that. And one of our core values is always be wise counsel to your clients. And that's doing something in the best interest of the client and making sure that you're upskilled and you're curious, et cetera, et cetera. We can go into all the behaviors, but basically you are the consultant. You're not there just to do, you're there to think. And so, and that's where people can position themselves to actually get paid what they're worth. And with that, I don't have to worry about ensuring I'm working 16 hours a day to pay the bills, which it always surprises me. One of the questions I always ask is somebody's like, how much capacity do you have? Or how busy are you? And they're like, oh, I'm busy. I'm off my feet. I work weekends, everything. And my next thing I say is, wow, your bank account must be so good. And they're like, no, not really. And I was like, well, that doesn't add up. So if you're working these sort of 60, 80-hour weeks, and you're still struggling financially, there's something missing here. And that's where
for sure.
you just got to position yourself properly.
Okay. That is a hot take, and I agree with you now. But is there then a maturity like consulting when you become a consultant versus when you become a freelancer? Because in the same breath, I feel, yes, there's a lot of work out there. And I'm a business owner. It's hard to get that work, positioning, branding, website. But I feel the conversation, and you can correct me again, is the moment someone wants to go freelance, they're moving from a space of like, let me rather go to do freelance because I'll be able to manage my time, right? That's one thing. I'll be able to decrease my stress. I will work on clients that I want, right?
Yeah.
But the conversation around making more money is not the first one. It's not like I'm going to be, but when consultants do it, like I've been working for F&B for 5 years, I'm going to go into consulting. It's not that they're going to say they want more time. I don't think for consult, they're like, I can control my time, right? And that time versus money conversation is what you're saying about the bank account. So I like what you say. You coach people, and you should probably make a Coursera course. Thinking about freelance, this is how you graduate to being a freelance, because most people just start freelance because they think it's going to make them free from the burdens that they have in corporate, which I don't think is true.
You're 100% right. And quite often somebody would just come on board and say, I'm thinking of going freelancing. I'm thinking of becoming a freelancer. And I'm looking for some tips and some guidance, and I'll take a call with them and I ask them, like, why? Why do you want to become a freelancer? And it's normally that they're actually unhappy in their current workplace. It's not because of the other reasons. So it's like, okay, so you're not actually wanting to become a freelancer. You're just wanting, I don't know, to take a day off when you feel you need a day off. That's actually what you're wanting. You can find employment that allows that as well. So, like, do you really want to be a freelancer? Because you are actually going to have more stress, but hopefully it's maybe the good type. We actually have also, to freelancers, we position ourselves as to be a bit of a safe house for them as well. So to have that place of, we speak about removing the stress of being a freelancer. So things such as sales and being paid on time and a community on who to turn to when you're stuck and time to do personal development training, whatever the case is. So we go like, we'll do that side for you, or we'll do the admin side for you. So you can actually focus on what you love doing. And with that, a few people that were worried about making the transition have actually made the transition and gone ahead with it, which has really been amazing to see. And then from there, you see them develop and grow. But I think going on to what you said earlier, I do believe that you need to gain experience before just becoming a freelancer. I think, sort of finishing school and just going to be a freelancer, I don't think it's the best thing. Go and gain that experience and then go the route of being a freelancer. And, you spoke now about maybe not knowing how to charge or whatever the case is, or because you need the work, or like you haven't really positioned yourself. I mean, quite often I'll see job posts, need PPC freelancer. And I actually contact the company. I'm like, okay, so you need a PPC freelancer. We're an agency of freelancers. Can I just get on a call and just understand what your needs are? And either we can help you or I can point the direction of a really good freelancer. And once we actually have the discussion, they realize quite quickly that they'd rather have the expertise of a group of freelancers
as opposed
to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
One.
So having individual. But it's because all I've done is I've gone on there and I've positioned ourselves in a way. And you, even as an individual, you can position yourself as the expert there. So not just a vendor. I think that's the big difference. Like you need to position yourself as an expert, not a vendor. And that's the key in client retention, as well as being able to price yourself correctly.
I'm smiling because I feel like entrepreneurship with its polarization, like, when you walk into a braai and your friends, oh yeah, wow, Chantelle's an entrepreneur. Like, and the entrepreneurs, like, you're your own boss. Like these are the words that people use. Freelancing has also got this polarization because freelancers also, they're like, yeah, I'm freelancing, bro. Like I'm freelancing, like because everybody's freelance, and the fact that they say freelancing, they're actually doing a bunch of nonsense versus I'm a specialist. Like there's very few people I've heard who say I'm a specialist, because the freelancers who are specialists, they actually say I'm a business owner, but I'm a solopreneur, right?
Yeah.
Freelancers are doing a bunch of things, which is not bad. And I think what I'm trying to allude to is this gig economy has its like negatives and positives, right? And you've maybe stood on the side of a business owner and being like, the business owners are almost diminishing the value by saying freelancers should work at a more affordable rate. But I'm also going to stand on the freelancer side, where you are also lowering the quality of output by freelancing too early, right? Where a graduate would have studied digital marketing, and on the side they want to freelance, which I don't think is a problem, right? But I think it's offering rather going the route and saying, let me work and offer up my specialty versus freelancing, because it's difficult to now as a business owner know I want a specialist or a freelancer, but then you now get burnt by a freelancer, because there's a whole thing. Yes, I got burnt by freelance. I got burnt by freelancer.
Yeah.
It's just like agencies. Oh, I just got burnt by. So you're lowering the standard here. And I'm gonna harp again on the idea that you need to graduate into freelancing. Freelancing is and let's move the economy into its own silo, which is marketing, which we know very well, both of us. I would say that's where we contribute to society and our wider communities through marketing expertise, right? And you wanted to say something there,
I think one of the main reasons why I'd say go work before freelancing is that, okay, let me actually take one step back. We do a poll with our freelancers, unicorns, every year, and it's like, what was the most important thing for you that Metis offers you? And it will be sales, it will be like training, personal development training, business mentorship, all that. And every year, the thing that comes out top number one each and every time, like, and by a fair margin, is the community side of it. So for example, with our paid media guys, I think we got 15 paid media specialists on board. And that's community of being able to learn and grow together and have these virtual coffee chats and like, oh, this one's stuck on this. And then somebody else be like, oh, I've been stuck there before. This is what I did. If you go too early on your freelancer journey, it's difficult to build those relationships and who to trust. And I know there's online communities and everything, but there's something about having that team dynamic that can really, really help. And I feel that does come with a bit of time and experience. And again, I think you'd just be able to position yourself as an expert as opposed to more of a generalist a lot of the time. Somebody who can do a little bit of everything. I think, like, where do you want to be? So yeah, that's why I would say don't go too early. And also, do you really know where you want to specialize until you've tasted like a few different things and gone, actually, that's my sweet spot. That's what I dig doing. That's the type of clients I enjoy working on. It's difficult to get that as a freelancer. As an early on or too early on freelancer. So I definitely believe getting a bit of expertise and a bit of team sort of dynamics going first.
Yes, I agree with that. And what are the qualities you would look for in someone who's entering into the marketing gig economy space, specifically marketing? Or if you want to talk about it general.
Yeah. On our side, we're very specific on what we offer. So there's obviously the skill side of it, which will be like, yes, data analysts, paid media, SEO, email marketing, that sort of thing. But further than that, it would be people that want to grow is super important to us. And people that want to share their knowledge with others. Those are actually the two key points that we look at with a freelancer, because we in marketing, and I don't know if it's specific to marketing, but we know I can only really talk from a marketing perspective, it changes so fast. The platforms we utilize change, new platforms are introduced. You need to want to learn and grow and keep up with it. What worked 10 years ago does not work anymore. And so we need people that have that curiosity and want to learn and want to grow and want to be better in the best interest of our clients. And then also share that back, because there's so many resources out there. There's so much information to take in. We almost need somebody to kind of be like the Blinkist to kind of like summarize all the books. And so by immediately having that, and also not only working on theory, actually working on other people's experiences. Like, I tried this and it worked, or I tried that and it didn't work. That gives a lot of power back in. So those are really, really key, I guess, culture fits for us. And I guess on our side, we made life extra difficult for ourselves. We've got to find people with certain skills and certain sort of attributes from a culture perspective. But we find when we find them, then it's a long-term relationship. So that's cool.
Those are very beautiful qualities, because again, I'm trying to play this like not Robin Hood for the freelance economy. I'm very like objective around the gig economy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be objective, because if work, change, and pain, constants in life, right? Those are the three constants in life. And if you talk about work, employability is one of the buckets that fill that work. But some people find themselves wealthy enough it doesn't feel like work. They actually then have so much money that they can work on themselves or other communities. So it's not work in the traditional words. But now, for the common person, I would say being employed is important, or earning a living. Employment contracts give you that feeling, because being employed is similar to what I think you fabricated in Metis, where it's like, you know that you're possibly going to get paid on time. You know that people are working, they're sharing, they're doing all the things that what a normal employment contract should sort of foster. but then you can step out and be a freelancer and have a different contract. So where I'm trying to go down is those two qualities that you've mentioned for a good employee is like standard, right? You need to be like want to learn and grow, and you need to play part of the team. But now what happens is people think that the moment I want to become a freelancer, those qualities are out the door, because freelancing is going to make me freedom. It's going to make me a lot more cash. I'm going to own my time, but I can be, if I have to be honest, a dickhead. Like I don't need to learn anymore. I don't need to share. You probably need to 10x that like quality, right?
Absolutely.
And why I say that's so beautiful, because it's like, it's so true. The best freelancers or like consultants get so much free work because they are the blinkest without even charging their time. They know their ideal clients. Be like, you know what? I see. Let me just solve this for you because I know exactly what to do, because I know that you won't be a client for me. Wow. That's a referral. Because also you're getting exposed to a problem that you already know. So interesting. Interesting, Chantelle. Interesting. Very, very interesting.
I think the battle a freelancer has, besides the potential, the ego that might come with it, is that there's just not a lot of time spent on non-billable things. Sort of goes out the window. So I need to get as many billable hours as possible, and so I do that by doing the client work. So therefore, I don't actually spend time on the researching or upskilling or whatever the case is, because I just don't have the time to. Where when I'm employed, it might be a prerequisite. Like it might be like there's a training on Friday and you have to attend, or whatever the case is. So I think there's that. I think there's also, it could potentially be the fear of, I want to stay ahead of everybody else. I don't want to share my knowledge, because if I share, that means there's be less work for me. There is consistently a fear around there not being enough work. And again, there was actually a really cool formula once I was once told, and it said, how many clients can you serve? Like ideal clients can you serve? And you put the number down. So let's just say it's 50. Okay, I can serve 50 clients. How many ideal clients are there potentially, like worldwide, that you could work for? And then you put that down. And that could be, let's say, 10 million, right? Take the one, divided by the other, times it by 100. That's your current market share. And what you'll find is it will be like 0.00001%. And why are you so fearful that there's not enough clients out there for you? It's just that we don't spend enough time on sales and going to actually find the work and find the ideal work. And again, with a freelancer, what happens? I'm so busy doing my billables, I don't spend time on positioning myself. I don't spend time on the sales, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's like the vicious circle starts again. But again, that's why we sort of create space. So you do attend training sessions, and you do attend personal development sessions, and you do get mentorship, and you do get business coaching. So like you're almost forced to take the time out to spend on yourself. Spoke about people with money spending time working on themselves. We all need to spend time working on ourselves, but maybe it's just about taking an hour out a week. And so we've sort of like created this environment where it kind of like has to happen for you to be part of it. So
yes.
And with that, hopefully you position yourself better so you do get paid better and not be working 80-hour weeks. So we're trying to break the vicious cycle that a lot of freelancers experience.
With having worked, how many freelancers have you worked with? Like,
I think I looked last week. I think we got 25 freelancers on our books.
But in your lifetime, since you've done this model, how many think you've in the hundreds?
I must say we rarely have freelancers leave. So it's probably not that much more than that. So the only time sort of freelancers leave is if they decide to go get permanent work, rather. If we just decide the culture fit is not there, or they actually outgrow us, which is such a cool one. Like, they go, actually, you know what? I want to start my own agency and whatever the case is. And perhaps that's a success story. So we've had a few people that has happened with, and then it
Mhm.
doesn't quite work with our model anymore. So
Yes.
maybe 35, 40, Jay, but it's not that
Okay.
much more.
S- ooh, that number. So you've come across different individuals. W- with someone in work now, like they're working now, and I think we've both come to an agreement that like you need to get experience in doing work so that you can find what firstly find how you work in a team, like just what
Yeah,
the professional day to day, because freelance, no one's going to be keeping you accountable, no one's going to be micromanaging it. And then you
absolutely.
you go over the years, and I feel there's a sweet spot where whatever that could be, 5-10 years, you've got a bit of work employment under your belt. If you were sitting in that individual's shoes, what are the questions you would be asking yourself that you would like to go freelancing? So what are the questions you should be asking yourself now that you feel like in a position that I think I'm a specialist around accounting, I think I could be a specialist around Google Ads. What are the questions you should be asking yourself before taking that leap?
I think the one thing I would ask myself is whether I'm wanting to work for almost like in a bit of a white label environment versus direct with the client. So what I mean by that is whether it's an accounting or a paid media specialist, am I going to be working with so and so accounting firms and be one of their freelancers on the books? And or do I be working with someone like Metis and be a freelancer on their books and they will outsource me to their clients? Or am I going to go and find those clients myself? Or am I going to do a mix of them? I think a lot of times an easier transition maybe to go with the sort of the middleman at least first. And with that, find the right one as well. But I wouldn't ever let that be more than 50% of my income. And then but it can just allow that little bit of safety while you maybe go and find the clients and everything. I would also ask myself, so I speak about the sweet spot quite often, and it's a matrix basically. So like your normal matrix, and on the y-axis we have from low energy to high energy, and on the x-axis we have low value to high value. So just to give you an example, so value a lot of times is financial, like what pays the bills or what's going to add value to your business or yourself or whatever the case is. And energy is like high energy, the stuff you like to do, low energy is stuff you don't like to do. So
Mm,
I'll give you insight into my matrix. So admin work for me
mm,
sits on normally high value because if I don't get an invoice out, I'm not going to get paid. But it sits
mm.
on low energy for me, like the lowest of
Energy,
low energy for me. So
energy sapping.
yeah, it is. So that little matrix is essentially the stuff that you need to outsource or delegate or whatever the case is. So luckily I have an accountant and my accountant sorts out everything to do with admin because I know for me I need it, but it's gonna just it will kill me slowly. Um and then basically the one above that is the stuff that gives you energy. I wake up, I'm super amped to do this. And it's of high value. So it's in demand and people are willing to pay for it. I would find out what sits in there. And what sits in there for me, it's not only the type of work, it's the type of client. So if I know if I get, I'm going to just be a paid media person now, since that is where I come from. So paid media, let's put it as an example. Google Ads might give me a huge amount of energy and it gets paid well. But let's say lead based clients or B2B clients for me is pays well, but is low energy. And e-commerce is pays well and is high energy. So now if I look at that, it's in my block, it says Google Ads and it says e-com. Now I know I should be looking for going for e-commerce clients and Google Ads for them or whatever the case is. So I would
Sure.
really find out because those things give me energy. Now, what might happen is I feel and somebody approaches me in their B2B and I go, okay, well, that is now low energy but it does pay. And I would go, is it something I want to take on? Like, it's not my first choice, but when you're starting out, you're going to probably have to do a few things that you don't like, but I would look at that and be like, it's a for now scenario. So like, happy to do it for the next 6 months. But what I'm going to be doing at the same time is trying to find my e-commerce Google Ads person. So Google Ads client.
Positioning yourself
So
there.
yeah, I would really focus on what gives me energy. And as I said, the type of client, type of work, maybe duration of work. Maybe you're somebody who only likes to be there for a short term. You enjoy putting the strategy together, but you don't want to do month-to-month management. So again, like, what is the stuff that is going to make you feel stoked 80% of the day, 80% of your time? There's always going to be the stuff you don't like doing, but what's going to like really keep you going for majority of the day? Because as you said earlier, you're going to have to motivate yourself. You're going to have to get up, get out of your pajamas, get to work. And who's going to be pushing you to do that? No one's going to be pushing you to do it. So therefore, the work must push you to do it, because you actually like, I can't wait to do this today. So if that's not your reason for becoming a freelancer, then reevaluate things. Because then to me, it's something else.
Sure.
It might be like disgruntled at work or something like that. It's not the right reason. It must be because you really want to go after something that you're passionate about.
Sure. Yeah, it's a simple answer, because a lot of people, I need to ask about like how much, simple in the sense that it's clear, right? Think about the energy, the way we would fulfill your time through work at the highest energy. Like that's it. That's what you need to think about. So the simplicity, it's not a complex, like a multi-layered question. But of course, answering is very complex. Like you have to think, you have to empathize, you have to take time.
But the thing is, like, you can just look at your current, and that's why I say, look at your current work and go, like, if I look at my last 6 months, let me write down all clients and projects that I work and put them in different blocks. Let me look at the type of work. Let me put them in the different blocks, and just basically look at your history, and your history will tell you which one ends up in that sweet spot box.
Sure, it's a great way, because if you are working on different clients in an agency, you could literally find 3 of them. It's like, I love that person, I like their work, and they also show up to meetings on time. It just makes so much sense. But you've never done that matrix because the need is only arising now. But I like that. That is a great way to look at it, because most people look at, how much do I want to charge? Like they're looking at the end polarized examples of these guys and girls that are freelancers, but not looking at it this lens. So that's beautiful. In closing, can you believe it? We've been yapping for almost an hour.
And went really quickly.
Again, you've worked with different freelancers, 30 plus. From your point of view, even though it's so subjective on why people go to be doing freelancers, because there could be a number of different things, but we hopefully think that they have specialized and they actually want to do more of the work they love. Like that maybe is a common thread with beautiful, good freelancers. Outside of that common thread, what are some of the things freelancers tell you that they love the route they took? They entered this gig economy and they're like, gosh, I'm so happy I'm here. Even though there's hard times. But what are like 3 or 4 things they're just like, I'll never go back?
Easy answer, actually. A couple of the common threads we find: moms, you want to be able to spend more time with your children, especially if their kids are sort of in, let's call it the toddler or young child phase, and they just want to be able to not have to leave the house at 7 a.m. to get to work, get home after 6, and they feel like they're missing out on a lot of golden years with their kids. And I'm not saying that's not for dads, but I just hear it from moms a lot more. The next one would be around wanting to travel. And so that generally would be, I'm generalizing now, but like a lot of our younger sort of freelancers wanted to be able to just travel more and have that sort of freedom. Something I just have, I guess, just had really disgruntled sort of things happen at the previous employment, and sometimes they've been forced into it due to maybe retrenchment or something like that, and it was something that just had to do. But I think if I really had to put it around something, it was just that freedom of time and I guess like where I need to be as well. So I think that's a large part of it.
Nice. Chantelle, has there been a question that I haven't asked you?
Is there a question you haven't asked me?
Is there something that I should have asked you?
Am I happy with our decision of making the change?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Chantelle,
I think,
let me ask you this. Chantelle,
yeah.
Metis Online, traditional agency, doing well. COVID happened. You now pivot to predominantly, if I'm not only, I think you've got a core team of like 4 people employed,
Yeah.
but you've got like
Yeah.
35 different contractors and gig economy and specialists, unicorns, not freelancers. Are you happy with that decision?
Very.
Mhm.
Before we made this change, I actually was not happy. I was not happy with what I was doing every day. I wasn't living in my sweet spot. I wasn't living in a place that gave me energy. And here's the thing, this business model is currently not as profitable as the previous business was. And yet I am much happier than I was because I feel it has a lot more purpose. It's got a much more of a purpose-driven, it's more of a purpose-driven business. We definitely, I think what I wish I'd done differently was realized that changing this business model actually was almost like starting a new business. So we spoke earlier on, we're almost 15 years old. We'll be 15 come June next year, but it's actually only 4 years old because that is how much the change was, right down to pricing and structures and everything that needs to be in place. So the only thing was we started a new business with a client database. That was pretty much it. Everything else really had to change. And with that in mind, I think I would have just maybe planned a bit better on what's in maybe had less expectation of really turning it into a certain size business at a certain time. So I think that I would really spend a bit of time on our positioning and our value proposition with this type of business model.
Sure. Thank you for sharing. That is a very honest answer. And I could actually actually starting businesses, working with other people who are starting businesses. There is that it's actually quite rough where it's like you start and you get early traction, but then it's like, oh, now I've got a business. What does this really mean? That period, not knowing what to do, who to ask for help, is quite rough. It is quite rough, and I guess it's in hindsight, and for anybody listening today, pivoting a business sometimes into this model is actually go bare, start like a startup. Don't think that you're pivoting processes, people.
You're not adding on the department here. It's
you're not adding a department. Yeah, and we do that so often, entrepreneurs. Chantelle, I want to play a little game with you before we close up, just to lighten things up. I do feel games. That you shared so openly. So it's a very simple game. I'm going to give you 2 options. Do you think you'll complete this game in 30 seconds, or do you need a bit more time? I'll give you 45 seconds. There's only been no one has ever done it in 30 seconds. 45 has been the fastest. Do you think you got it in 30? Yeah?
No, I think that you've got very, very smart people who've been on this podcast. And so I don't know if I'll be quicker than they are.
So you're going to go for 45?
I'll try. I'm always
You're going to try the 30?
I'll try for 30.
Okay, cool. Okay, you're going to try for 30. So the game, I love how you didn't even know what the game is, but the game is basically either or, right? You've got 30 seconds. There's about 6 categories, and you just have to answer either or. You can't pass. It's either red, you either like red or you like orange, and you just got to get through it. 30 seconds.
Cool.
All right. Teamwork here. I am going to just put this timer on. All right. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go. Food, sweet or savory?
Savory.
Travel, beach vacation or mountain adventure?
Mountain.
Relationship, spontaneous date night out or planned getaway?
Spontaneous date night.
10 seconds. Fitness, morning workout or evening run? Mind, meditation or journaling?
Meditation.
Oh, time up. You just had one more, Chantelle. Okay, let me give you the... So then the last one, learning, podcast or books?
Books.
Nice. Awesome, Chantelle. Let us know, what's the best place to find a little bit more about you? How can we get in contact with you? I'll leave them in the show notes, but just a little show reel on Chantelle Bowyer.
Only place you'll find me is on LinkedIn. I don't have any other form of social media. So that's the best place to hit me up. And then I'm also happy. I'm actually very good with email if you're looking for a response. So I'm one of those people that never have an email left in my inbox. And I'm happy to guide anyone that is looking to transition their business like this. It's such a passion of mine. I really believe in it.
Amazing. I can second that. You are a very passionate woman. You are very human. You're human too. Like, you're very human to human. I've had such great experiences from doing business together, you teaching me how to cook, and now even just being on this podcast, Chantelle. Thank you so much. And we'll definitely be doing this again.
Thanks, Jay. I already had such a fun time. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Ciao.